more can be said than thank God we're here in Sunset Park to worship and bring back the greatest president we've ever known in our generation.
When you think about Jesus Christ himself, everybody went against him because he was preaching love and doing what was right for the people. And Trump's doing what's right for this nation, and because he's doing that, everybody is against him.
Conflating Christianity with right-wing politics has rotted the brains of so many of our fellow Americans that they believe this is what Jesus would do.
Carol was sitting there next in between two of her attorneys. She was holding the hands of one of her attorneys, and when the question came of, did they prove that Eugene Carroll proved that Trump had sexually abused her, and the answer was yes. You could see that she looked relieved. She was leaning forward at times. She, exchanged smiles with one of her attorneys.
Mayors and governors must establish an overwhelming law enforcement presence until the violence has been quelled. If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them. I am also taking swift and decisive action to protect our great capital, Washington, D.C.
Nothing says Christian love and compassion for the oppressed quite like threatening to use the military against your own civilians instead of listening to their demands and empathizing with their plight.
They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poison mental institutions and prisons all over the world. But all over the world, they're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia, all over the world. They're pouring into our country. Nobody's even looking at them. They just come in. The crime is going to be tremendous. The terrorism is going to be.
Notice how he didn't mention immigrants coming from Europe or Australia.
Illegal immigration is poisoning the blood of our nation. They're coming from prisons, from mental institutions, from all over the world. Without borders and fair elections, you don't have a country. Make America great again. We must win in 2024, or we will not have a nation. Thank you.
This is straight up schmozzy rhetoric out in the open, but the most troubling part is that it's resonating with the base, revealing that our country is much closer to full-blown fascism than the general public may have realized. And with clowns like this in Congress doing Trump's bidding, it's not a stretch to say we're at a precarious point in our country's history.
The Democrats and the fake news media want to constantly talk about, oh, President Trump is a convicted felon. Well, you want to know something? The man that I worship is also a convicted felon. And he was murdered on a Roman cross.
This wasn't the first time Marjorie Taylor Greene compared Trump to Jesus either.
President Trump is joining some of the most incredible people in history being arrested today. Nelson Mandela was arrested, served time in prison. Jesus was arrested and murdered by the Roman government. There have been many people throughout history that have been arrested and persecuted by radical, corrupt governments.
Marjorie told this completely insane take to now boyfriend Brian Glenn during Trump's arraignment last year, completely ignoring the context in which Trump, Nelson Mandela, and Jesus were arrested. Saying those names in a sentence together sounds so wrong, but that's the power of right-wing propaganda and the lack of wanting to dive deeper into the historical context.
When President Trump says immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country, is that a statement you agree with?
That's not language I would use, but I understand the urgency of President Trump's admonition. He's been saying this since he ran for president the first time, that we have to secure the border. And I think the vast majority of the American people understand the necessity of that, and I think they agree with his position.
But that statement goes beyond what you are personally comfortable with.
It's not language I would use, but I understand.
It's not the language I use, but I still agree that immigrants are eroding the white supremacist foundation of our country, is what Mike Johnson really wanted to say, since he knows he can't be as brazen with his racism as Trump can, though he has still tried his best.
Right here in Texas, Governor Abbott has heroically done more to enforce the law than the president has. And how has this administration responded? They have sued the state of Texas to stop their deterrence efforts. They have brought them to court to strike down their ability to put up buoys in the water and razor wire and the rest. It's absolute insanity.
With all of this context in mind, let's now turn to journalist Lauren Windsor of The Undercurrent and her bombshell report of secret audio recordings of Supreme Court Justices Samuel Alito and Chief Justice John Roberts, as well as Martha Ann Alito, Sam's wife. We'll be honing in on the Alito couple's recordings, but I highly recommend checking out all of them in full on Windsor's Twitter page to get a complete picture of the corruption that has captured the highest court in the country.
I don't know that we can negotiate with the left in the way that needs to happen for the polarization to end. I think that it's a matter of winning.
I think you're probably right. I think one side or the other is going to win. I don't know.
This is a sitting Supreme Court justice openly admitting that he can't be impartial to politics when it comes to his rulings, and there's evidence to back up this point.
People in this country who believe in God have got to keep fighting for that, to return our country to a place of godliness.
Oh, I agree with you.
Again, Alito affirms that he personally wants to bring godliness back to America, once again proving that he can't keep his personal religious beliefs out of his decisions and is completely compromised as a result.
You know what I want? I want a Sacred Heart of Jesus flag, because I have to look across the lagoon at the Pride flag for the next month.
Exactly.
And he's like, oh, please don't put up a flag.
And then there's Alito's wife, letting her homophobia be known to the entire world. This is who these people are when they're away from the public eye. And given what else we found out about Clarence and Ginny Thomas and the extravagant gifts they have received over the years, we may just be scratching the surface of how deep the corruption runs. A massive shout out again to Lauren Windsor for the brave reporting. Make sure you check out her work at the links below and donate to The Undercurrent if you can to support their work.